do you make your husband a good provider?
How can you make your husband a good provider?
Mhm.
You can't.
Good luck with that.
You can't. How can you make them a good communicator? How can you make someone, it's not your job. You can't make them do that. And it's not even your job to do that. Unfortunately, someone should warn people before they get married that there could be some really good things and some really bad things. In fact, it's been suggested they put it right in the vows. Oh, wait,
Oh, they did.
for better or worse. And if your spouse is not a good provider, then that you've got the for worse. And you agreed to that when you got married. So then what you do is you do what you can on your part. If your husband doesn't make enough that for your family, first of all, I would say, look at the budget. What can you cut out? The hard thing is when two people get married is one person feels fairly strongly that money should be spent here and another person that it should be spent there. You could be the one that's right and you could be the one that's wrong. But look at the budget. And then if you need more money than you have, it is up to you as the wife to help provide that if you can. Yeah, there's things that you can do, making things in the home or getting a job. And I know it's hard with children and I know it's not fair, but life was never meant to be fair. So you can't make someone be a provider. You also, if a wife feels, I hear this more the other end, wife does not want to work outside the home. I'd like to not work outside the home, quite frankly. I'd like to not have to do that. But sometimes we both have to work in order to reach our goals that we want. If you want something nicer, if you have to look at your long-term goals and then be willing to work for it and figure out a way to do it. What was the second part of that question?
Well, before
again?
we go to
yeah.
that part,
Yeah.
I like what you said, Robin, is, you're just going to have to do your part and for better or worse. But, most of the time when people get married, they do kind of believe it's God's will. So you hopefully have done all kinds of premarital counseling, you got to know the person, et cetera, and then you got married and things kind of turned for the worse. But does that mean that God's made a mistake or that his will wasn't good? Or maybe it is God's will, and this is a hard thing to say and even a hard thing to embrace, that maybe this is God's will for you to go through this time of suffering. So, we have to commit then we do all we can. We try to be as responsible as we can. We try to make sure we're doing our part. But then we just may have to trust it to God that for whatever reason, God is bringing the situation into our life. And one of the things that Robin and I have said, although it may not be as bad as this question, but we're very thankful that most of our struggles in life have been financial. We've not had any children struggles with health or disabilities or no accidents or injuries or anything of that nature. So financials, in our estimation, humble estimation, that's kind of that's one of the better struggles to have. So God could be in this, and I do believe that since you thought it was God's will for you to be married, that God is in this, and we're just going to have to trust him to see how he works this out.
Yeah, I'm going to add one more thing to that. Even if you married someone hastily, maybe you weren't in the right place with God, and maybe afterwards you're like, what was I thinking? I made a mistake. You married them. God allowed it to happen, and it's up to you to make it work. And it's funny, finance is one of the biggest things that people fight about. It really is. So you just have to stop and think about, God cares more about you being holy than he cares about you moving up in the world financially a little bit. So you just need to remember that you're pleasing God, being holy, figure out a budget on how you can live, and you might have to do without something that you feel you need that might just be a want, or you might have to find a way to work harder to get it.
The wife is also working and the husband is not willing to share how much he earns. So how can they resolve that?
Well, I think it's a bigger issue than that. That's using an agricultural term, that is the fruit of a problem. That's not the real root of the problem. So I would imagine that unwillingness to be transparent shows up in many other places as well. So I would not necessarily focus on the fruit, him not wanting to share how much money he makes. I would just say the deception or the lack of transparency, you would need to prayerfully and maybe with some outside guidance, try to see if by asking questions or observations, if you can determine the real root or the reason for that.